Hello, I'm Clive Lewis, Labour MP for Norwich South, and today I'm going to be answering your biggest questions on water. They're all in here, and I'm doing it because for the last, year and a bit, I've been pushing really hard to try to bring water back into public ownership. So why public water? Well, it's essential to all of us. It's a critical resource. It's a natural monopoly. It's a natural public good, and it's something we all use. And 82% of the public agree that water should be in public hands. A little while ago, I asked you for your top questions on this issue, and more than 2,000 of you wrote in with some brilliant questions, which I'm now going to try to answer. Now, I can't answer all 2,000 of them, but I will give my best shot to as many as I can. How have privatised companies been allowed to pay huge bonuses to executives and dividends to shareholders, yet fail to meet customers' basic requirements so poorly? That's from Beryl, but it was also asked by Richard, Stephen, Roger, Pamela and Sarah. Well, great question. The reality is privatised water of a natural monopoly is doing what it says on the tin. It is about profit maximisation. It isn't about public service. It isn't about sustainability. It isn't about the environment. It isn't about keeping bills down. It is about the bottom line. And that's what the system was designed to do. There is an added feature though, the regulatory component, which was meant to kind of manage that urge. What's happened is over time, we have what we call regulatory capture. So the private interests that own those water companies have basically paid and co-opted many of those who are in the regulatory sector, and you get this revolving door. So ultimately the regulator is trying to regulate a system which is inherently there about profit maximisation, and everything else is secondary. That's why they're allowed to do this. And it is a political failure in part which has allowed this to happen. The only way out of it is public ownership. I wish to know why you are pushing so hard for public ownership of water. Pete. Well, Pete, I chose water because water sits at the nexus of so many of the issues that confront our society, our economy, our democracy. It's about the potential shortage of water because of the climate crisis. It's the cost of living crisis that people are facing because of the bills that are coming their way. It's the fact that private water companies are ripping us off and people feel a sense of injustice. And it's about the crisis of democracy. It's about the fact that people feel that they've been let down by successive governments who refuse to acknowledge that water companies are ripping us off. And that is generating the rise of the far right, who are capitalising on that. So this really, in so many ways, is an issue which gets to the heart of so many of the problems that this country is facing. And if we can get this right, then we've got an answer for so many other areas. Where is the pressure to keep the water industry private coming from? That's a really good question. It's coming from the people that own it. Water is a cash cow. It's creating billions of pounds, has created billions of pounds in profit for them. They're not doing very much for it. They're sweating an asset, a public asset, and they're taking vast amounts of money from it. It's extractive. They want to hold on to this resource. It's got its future potential benefits for data centers and nuclear power and chips. It's phenomenal. And they know that water is a critical resource that's going to become rarer as the climate crisis envelops us. So water and the pressure to keep it private is coming from those who are benefiting it, which is finance capital and the investors behind it. Where do you think we will be in 10 years' time in respect of water provision and control if we don't manage to get water supplies into public ownership? Liz. Liz will be in deep doo-doo. Why do I say that? Because ultimately the National Audit Office has already said that in the next 10 years we'll start running out of water. The bottom line is private water companies don't fix enough leaks. They've sold off reservoirs. Their main concern is extracting profit from our water system. The only people who have a vested interest in conserving our water, preparing for the climate crisis and the droughts that we know are coming, is us, the public. Hence, we need to own it. That's the answer. Why is the government so reticent about public ownership of water? Privatised water is an outlier, even in free market countries. And that's from Wilson. But it was also one of the most popular questions we received with everyone, Matthew, Jennifer, Michael, Val, Tim, Michelle, Mike, Alison, David, James, Tina, Alan, Julian, Carolyn, Jill, Bob, Lucy, Kim, Diane, Anne, Hugh, Bernard, David, Vivian. who all ask that question. Very popular question. And it's a question I ask myself all the time. Why isn't Labour in favour of public ownership? Labour is meant to be the people's party. Clearly something's gone wrong. And we don't have time in this answer to explain all of that. But what I can say is that what we have at the moment is a government that is a managerialist government. And that means they're trying to manage the status quo. And the status quo is a situation where private water companies and investors are making super profits from water for doing very little and very little investment themselves. It's our money that invests in it. They don't want to let it go. It's a critical asset, a critical resource. And it's why the government is saying no to public ownership of water, but yes to public ownership of rail. Because the forces behind water are some of the most powerful in our economy, those finance capitalists that are behind it. And that's part of the reason why the government is so reticent about public ownership, because they're being told, if you take our money away here, then we might not invest elsewhere in the economy. Most other countries have publicly owned water systems. This is true. Why can't we look at them and take ideas from them? Deborah. We in this campaign do. It's our government that refuses to. It's a pretty simple answer. Will the general public have any say in public ownership? And that was asked by Samantha, and it was also asked by Julian and Mike. That's a brilliant question. It depends on the kind of public ownership we have. If we nationalise water, so it's government ministers appointing people to run water, then less so. But there are lots of models around the world and in other countries, other businesses that we've seen where you can have local authorities having a stake, you can have workers having a stake, and you can have us, the public, the farmers, the businesses that use water, also sitting on those boards, also partly owning water. So it depends on the model we go for. But yes, the model that we're campaigning for is one where we, the public, the people who need water, who use water, have a real say over this critical resource. How much support do you have in Parliament for public ownership of water? That's from Neville, and also asked by Alan Paul, Tim, Richard, Christine, Neville, Janet, Malcolm, Chris, Lynn, Gillian, Roger, John, Jane, Trevor, Malcolm, Bellona, and Kenneth. Great question. I think there's more support than you think. So we've got a new Parliamentary Labour Party, okay, very new, lots of new MPs, and lots of them are feeling their way through. Lots of them don't want to rock the boat. But after 15 months of a government, frankly, that isn't calling many things right, in my opinion, a lot of them, I think, are beginning to find their own feet. And I know that privately, a lot of them support public ownership of water, but they don't want to upset the government by saying that. And I think our campaign and your support and your lobbying can bring more of them out in the coming weeks and months to support public ownership of water. How big a chance do you have of achieving your admirable aims? Rodney. Also asked by Michelle, Martin, Rod, Janet, Martin, Andrew, David, Norman, Beryl, and Colette. I think our chance is as good as the public's desire for real change. If enough people get involved in this campaign, if we make our voices loud enough, then we can win this argument. I think we've already won the argument in many ways, but can we make our voices loud enough to convince government that they have to do this? 82% of the country think we're on the right track. So I think the more of you that sign up on the link below to this campaign and get involved, then the better the chance we have of winning this. Ultimately, this is about the future of our democracy. Who's in control? Will we be handing it over to the authoritarians and to finance capital, or will we reassert control of this critical asset? That's a big question, and I think we can do it if you join up. How will you ensure that an incoming government couldn't just privatise it at the stroke of a pen? Trevor asked that question, and also asked by Robert, Alan, Martin, and Judith. Okay. Unfortunately, you can't guarantee that because Parliament is sovereign. What does that mean? It means Parliament can do whatever it wants. But what you can do is you can make it as politically unpalatable as possible and politically unpopular as possible. Because when you give the public power, when you give them resource, when you give them money off their bill, when you give them a good service, when you give them a say over something, they ain't going to want to let that go. So a government that comes and tries to take that away from them is going to be politically unpopular. So that's the best way, I think, of preventing a future government from taking water out of public hands. Number one question is, how can I help, Clive? That's also asked, that's from Ollie, and it's also asked by Peter, Barnaby, Lisa, Margaret, Nerissa, Christine, Alan, Margaret. How can I help? Well, you can help me with my shopping on Thursdays, but aside from that, you can help by sharing this video, by joining up on the clicky link thing here to join the campaign. Get involved with all the activities that we'll be doing over the coming weeks and months, but more importantly, talk about water, talk about the campaign, and talk about how critical it is that we take it back into public ownership. Are there crucial points in the coming few months that we should know about? That's from Ben. Well, Ben, there's always a crucial point coming up in this campaign, but I would argue that one of the critical ones is the fact that the government are looking and working on their new water bill. This is the flagship water bill after Cunliffe, which was the review into what water was getting right and what it was getting wrong, and then coming back with a new big bill that was going to fix water permanently. That's going to be a big moment. I think the legislation could happen before Christmas. There's no guarantee, but for my mind, that's the next big event on water. And of course, I'll be doing heaps on that with lots of other campaigners. If you want to get involved, you know where to click, get involved with the campaign, get the newsletter, join the campaign. We'll be working on it. Okay, I think that's all we've got time for today. Thousands of questions. I'm questioned out, but it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sending them in. And remember, if we are to be victorious in bringing water back into public hands, then share this video, click the link, join up, be part of the campaign. So let's remember, it's our water. So let's take it back.